2025, I managed to read 30 books. I'm dyslexic, that is the most books I have ever read in a year. I actually have like a pretty decent, ooh, oh my god. Which means for the first time, I've actually a pretty decent stack to share with you of my 5-star reads. So let's get on with this. I'm actually gonna be very cheeky, and I'm gonna start with a 5-star read from 2024. Forgive me, indulge me. Lord of the Rings. I read Fellowship of the Ring in 2024. I don't know why I put reading off this series for such a long time. I'm remembering to put this in here because I'm currently reading The Hobbit. That's going to be my first read of 2026. I'm enjoying myself. But hot damn, why on earth have I just never got around to reading this? At the end of 2024, essentially, it sounds stupid, I discovered fantasy. I found some series that I was ready to commit to, ready to enjoy, and Lord of the Rings is such a classic one. I have thus far only read Fellowship. Do not at me, do not whatever. I read this, enjoyed it, but it's not, unlike a lot of very modern fantasy, it's not as, you know, fast paced and like gripping in the same way. It's more akin almost to travel literature. I'm a big fan of the films. It was kind of a no-brainer for me to read this. And I think I was just putting off because I thought it was such a boy book, if you know what I mean. My brother, for example, I think he's reread Lord of the Rings maybe in excess of 3 or 4 times, and like now I kind of get it. And it's also fun reading The Hobbit because you start to see how things link up, and it's incredibly enjoyable. But just J.R.R. Tolkien is just such an incredible, he's just such an incredible person in terms of just craft and reading, and like the way he uses his language is so deeply enjoyable. And he is so obviously such a massive nerd, and that's what makes it so enjoyable as well, is you can tell how much love and enjoyment he has put into this. The backstory, the lore is just unbelievable. The amount of like other textual things he put around his world is just, oh, it's brilliant. I love it. I'm not going to dwell on this because, and do I have to? It's Lord of the Rings. I'm planning on reading Two Towers this year, and I think I'm going to save Return of the King for next year. I've been reading a bit of romancy, read the entirety of Sarah J Maas's ACOTAR series. I enjoyed it, but I wanted so much more from the fantasy element, so I decided, you know, I think it's time, Emma. I think it's time to go more fully into fantasy. So naturally, you're gonna start with the classics of the genre. So there we go. Really enjoyed that, probably more than I thought I would. Okay, next on this list, you know, we'll do another absolute through and through classic. It's also currently like TikTok's favourite classic book, which I think is really quite funny. I read The Count of Monte Cristo. I read this over the summer. You can see, I'm just gonna start off by saying this, cloth-bound classics, the Penguin cloth-bound classics, don't buy them. They are absolutely not fit for purpose. When you actually read them, they completely disintegrate. The covers, they just wear off. I was covered in red flakes for like a month. Really not fit for purpose. And also I'm now smug because whenever I see people's beautiful collections of Penguin cloth-bound classics, I know you haven't read them. Everyone who reads them knows you haven't read them. Shame on you. Decoration, books for decoration. This isn't decoration, this is a problem, okay? Is this a shopping problem? I don't know. It's an issue. People buying books for decoration, sinful behavior, honestly. I'm sure all of you agree, actually. I'm preaching to the choir. The Count of Monte Cristo, okay. This is my partner's favorite book. He convinced me to read it. I was resistant to it because, again, like I've said, I'm dyslexic. This is 1,243 pages long. That's a commitment, okay? This is a commitment. But really, once I started reading it, once I got on with it, and I cannot believe the words are coming out of my mouth, you will wish it was longer. 1,200 pages, not enough. Not enough. This is written by Alexandre Dumas in the middle of the 19th century. It's very much in this era of massive political unrest, social unrest, you know, Napoleon's here and then he's not, and he comes back, and there's a Bourbon restoration, there's another Bourbon restoration. This part of French history, a mess. So to set this story, this epic revenge narrative within this just social, political, just mess, brilliant. It is straight up bingeable. The way Dumas does character, the way he does art is unbelievable. A couple of really important things to understand about this is that one, it was written in serialization, meaning, you know, it was published in like a literary magazine, those kinds of things. So every chapter was a different installment, meaning that they are very short chapters, very easy to read, and also they always end on a cliffhanger. The amount of times I sat down to, I'm just gonna read 30 pages, 100. I'm just gonna read 20 pages, 150. Shockingly easily done. The other important thing to know about Dumas is he wrote plays. He was a huge playwright, meaning that his dialogue as well in this is just excellent. This is a 1990 translation by Robin Buss. It's a lot less archaic than some older translations, and so with that slightly more contemporary feel, which I do think is appropriate, it becomes so easy for you to just inhale this book. I read this in just over a month. I read it over the summer. Personally, I think it's a massive summer book. Read this as like your big summer blockbuster. The fact that you're reading, you're reading a classic, you're reading literature, like honestly, f that idea. You can just enjoy this, the fact that it is good. There's a huge range of characters. His descriptions of Rome and of Paris and of Marseille are so all-encompassing. The way this man does plot is unbelievable. Everything has a purpose, no word is superfluous. His characterization is just top f***ing tier. If you like adventure, if you like revenge, if you like good bits of lore and backstory, if you like murder, if you like poisonings, if you like being really, really f***ing petty, this is the book for you. It also feels very gossipy, so easily one of my favorite books of all time. So one of the few books this long I'm actually so down to reread. So do not fear it. This is not an unsurmountable challenge. This is a through and through incredibly enjoyable book. It's just a pain in the ass to cut around though. This, hefty, okay? There's meat on those bones. Okay, I dropped something on the floor. Let's go with that. This is Claire Keegan, Small Things Like These. I read this at the end of last year. It's set during Christmas time. It's set in rural Ireland in the 1980s. It's very short. It's about 100 pages and we've got wide margins and not very much text on the page. If you're slightly intimidated about reading more contemporary literary fiction, Claire Keegan is a wonderful, wonderful place to start. A lot of her novels and novellas are very short. Her prose is honestly almost poetic, but without it being didactic, flowery, or just shoved full of adjectives. Like some people seem to think that good language and descriptive language means shoving as many adjectives in there as possible. She doesn't do that, and her characterization of her characters, again, wonderful, and she manages to say so much with so little. It is absolutely fabulous. It's about a coal merchant whose name is Bill Furlong, which is a unit of measure. It's 1/8 of a mile, and the things he notices as he goes on his deliveries running up to Christmas, including deliveries to the local convent. And I should leave that there. I actually have another copy over here because I bought it. I bought it for an Irish friend, and she, of course, had already read it, and I think had received more than one copy, and so had her mum. So clearly we're all just buying this for the Irish people in our lives. But because I bought it for someone else and they'd also read it. But hey, at least it was a pretty good guess. I think the fear of buying other people's books is always, am I going to get it so right that you have already read this? Some people need to keep their Goodreads up to date, okay? I'm just saying, it's very useful for everyone around you. Speaking of Goodreads, mine is Angeline. If you want to go have a stalk and nosy on that to try and judge my taste, if you're unable to read this mess behind me. This never stays organised for long, making booktube videos the way that I do. Really recommend. I'd say this is more something to read around winter time, but you cannot go wrong. Claire Keegan really stunned me with her very economic use of words, and I have now purchased, this will be in an upcoming haul at some point, but I also bought Foster, but this is set in the summertime, so I'm going to read this. I'll do like my summer TBR vid, or maybe try her work if you're in a reading slump and you're more of a classics, contemporary lit fiction person like I am. Also, if you are, subscribe. Obviously. Speaking of contemporary lit fic, I read Kang, Human Acts. She won the Nobel Prize for her body of work in 2024, I think. This is my first introduction to her work. I also this year read The Vegetarian, which is what more people seem to have read when I talk about it. But this absolutely, it stunned me. I read this very fast because it ended up giving me nightmares, so I tried to blitz through this because it was just, it's incredibly heavy, it's incredibly rough and raw. It is not for the faint of heart. It's not going to be for all of you. I personally do tend to read darker things, so this is more up my street. It's about a student uprising in Gwangju in South Korea in the 1980s, which led to a violent suppression by the military. It starts off with a young boy who is searching for the body of his friend. I found it painful but necessary, and I think this is what a lot of people seem to often miss is, okay, you want to learn about the world. You want to learn about historical events. You want to learn about the past. You want to learn about what it means for the future. You want to just learn things about new places, new people, historical events. People often then try and go towards reading nonfiction, but I really think you stand to learn and understand more by reading fiction. After reading this, I then also went and took like a massive deep dive into like military dictatorships in the 20th century because, like, obviously, right? Han Kang's family actually is it was Gwangju, sorry, in South Korea. So as far as I can remember, she was born there and her family moved away before this all happened. So I think it's also interesting to read from that then more personal perspective, and then thinking about things like testimony in literature, which there's another book on here that's massive for that as well. But I think these kind of things are very important, and I think to learn about them helps you understand how they happen and how to make sure they never again happen. Because there are so many things that keep happening that people have already in the 20th century said never again to. And I think ultimately the most remarkable thing about how she writes, because this applies to the vegetarian as well, Kang can write about such gruesome, violent things, and she's completely unflinching in her depictions of them, but they are never gratuitous, they are never over the top. She tells it how it is because it is necessary, not for your macabre pleasure or enjoyment. It is because you need to know. That's how she writes and how she handles very dark material, and it is very impressive, very much worth reading, but it is not for everyone, it is not for the faint of heart. Let's then stay on the slightly more darker testimonial side of things. I read Elie Wiesel Night. This is his account of his survival of Auschwitz. It's very short, it's about 100 pages, but I found myself reading this very slowly because it's so heavy. He was a Hungarian Jew, and the way that this story unfolds, it's one that I'm sure all of you will know. I think it's so important to hear these things as told by the people who suffered and survived them. I think just learning things from a history textbook is never going to be enough. I think you totally lose that human element to it, and I think, you know, the empathy that you get from reading things, whether it's fictionalized like this or whether it's testimony like this, is so deeply important. I also think it's intensely human. I've read a couple of things about the Holocaust before, I've read a couple of things written by survivors of the Holocaust before, but I think what struck me the most about this was not how he describes the camps or how he describes what he suffered, it's how often he just discusses bread, how often he discusses a ration of bread, how often he discusses getting a crust of bread, how often he discusses just getting some soup, as well as the moment he parts with his mother and his sisters never to see them again. The moment that they realise it's too late, it's too late to get away anymore, and how incredibly used to death that he becomes during this, because he endures this while he's a teenager, and the death of his father, which they go through so much, and then his father passes really very soon before the camp that they are then eventually moved to is liberated. He just becomes so used to death because for him it's about survival, which is why he goes on and on about just a crust of bread, because at times it's as if that is the only thing that stands between him and death. I think it's absolutely one of the most important works of testimony and literature of the 20th century, and it is not just that it is harrowing and important because of what it is, but it's also just the way that it is written is incredible. So I really do recommend it. Again, it's not for the faint of heart, but I think in this case, as well as with this, I think that's irrelevant. I think testimony is a very important thing in your reading journey, in your literary journey to dive into, because you can read all the philosophy that you want. These are the kind of texts that will teach you more about life and about what it is to be human than anything else will. And I thoroughly stand by that. And naturally, now my battery is flashing me, so let me just... Okay, let's continue something a little bit more upbeat. I read Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb in January last year, and oh my... Look, can I show you this? There's a pen in here. I read all of them, and then I, obviously, because I'm an insane person, I want to know by this year in 2026 because I think it's necessary. I haven't read all of these, this is necessary, but one of the last things I did before the clock struck midnight on New Year's Eve enforcing said ban, this is her Farseer trilogy, and then this is the, what is this, Magic Ship something trilogy. I don't know which order these books go in. I haven't even unwrapped them because they're still in the nice shiny cellophane, but I'm so excited to read those. Also, I'm sorry, 30 Great British Pounds for 2,400 pages worth of book? I think yes. So excited to read those. But yes, I read this series this year. I rated both of these 4 stars. This is Royal Assassin and Assassin's Quest, which was the last book I finished. But this first book in her Farseer trilogy, and also the first book then in her entire realm of Eldlings. I have such an incredible soft spot for this book. It's about a young boy whose name is Fitz, who gets brought to the royal court when he is 6 years old because he is somebody's bastard. He's a royal bastard. And then the sort of life that unfolds for him in the situation, how he's growing up and how he's navigating this royal court, and how he just needs somebody, will somebody please just love this goddamn child. And then also about how Fitz has this magic ability and how he's being raised by the stable master, and how he's got this magic that gives him special relationships to the animals. It is so gorgeous. It is such a gorgeous book. I think the way that Robin Hobb writes is, and this has been the same for all of these books as well, she's just incredibly character driven as an author. It's something I realised I was really missing when I was reading fantasy, and I thoroughly enjoyed this series, and this book was just such a winner for me. I'm sure you could give this to a child, maybe like a slightly precocious 10-year-old could read it. Maybe not some of the stuff in the other books, but this one definitely. I found almost, dare I say, cozy without it being, you know, doing those other more tropey things that self-labelled cozy books do. It felt a little bit more like a kid's book for me in that sense, but it really is gorgeous, and especially Robin Hobb's understanding of how sort of castle ecosystems work, and just this medieval setting that she puts us in feels so real in a way that it hasn't really in other fantasy books that I've read. I really enjoyed it. I actually can't speak highly of it enough, but I will warn you that it is the gateway to addiction. So you've been warned, because this is a 16-book world, and I regret nothing. This is her first trilogy. She wrote this in the 90s. Then this is apparently much better than this. Like I said, I finished it recently. I thought it was very good, but apparently this is better. So I really look forward to this, because goddamn does Fitz need a win, okay? He needs a goddamn win. I really don't know when I reorganise my bookshelves, by the way. I really don't know where these books are gonna go, because I had a fancy section in my bedroom and that's just, like, it's full. So I don't really know what I'm going to do here. I will also say that I don't think I've read anything about such a young child in a very long time, and I think that was also very enjoyable for me. It felt a little bit, again, more like maybe children's literature, kind of in the way that I'm currently reading The Hobbit, so that kind of feels very similar in that sense, but really very lovely and really quite fun. I have a lot of affection for this book. 3 left, I promise we're getting there. Speaking of epics, I read the Aeneid. I read it on holiday with my partner when we went to Naples, which is a travel vlog I need to give you, and then also to Rome. If you want to see that Rome bit and actually the reading vlog of me reading this, I'll link it for you. Lots of these books, if you're new to me, by the way, hi, hello, my name is Emma. Lots of these books I've essentially covered and spoken about in reading vlogs that I do, if you want a more in-depth look at them, and also it kind of sort of chronicles my reading progress and process with them, and sort of just, you know, the motions. And this, I really enjoyed. I was shocked by how often I cried reading this. I'm always struck by ancient texts in the way that they can still move you after thousands of years, because some things are just so inherently human to us. This is Virgil's epic of Aeneas, the Trojan warrior who, after the sack of Troy, goes on an epic adventure very akin to the Odyssey, and then wages war in the land of Ilium, very akin to the Iliad, before eventually founding Rome. And I have to say, these classics are never as boring or scary or intimidating as you think they're going to be. The way I essentially prepped myself for this was I watched a couple hours worth of YouTube videos on Rome, because this is very important to Augustus, Roman propaganda, but then also not Roman propaganda. It's really interesting to look at it in terms of the textual history, the social history, the ancient history, as well as just being such a fun, wild ride. Really, I mean that very sincerely. This is a translation by David West, and it's a prose translation. And if you're getting into reading classics, if you're getting into reading epics, my advice for you in terms of beginner stuff is, because this isn't, don't you dare fall, because this is an epic poem, start with a prose translation. I doubt this is the only time I will ever read this, but I will definitely be the only time I read it in prose. The next time I would want to read it in verse, because my argument for this is, the first time you read it in prose, whether you're reading the Odyssey, if you're reading the Iliad slaps, by the way. It's so fucking good. And no, I haven't read the Odyssey yet, leave me alone. I can't find my copy. I have a copy, I don't know where it is. I literally cannot find it. No, you cannot write jokes this good, I swear, okay? My argument is start with prose, learn the story, and then when you want to experience it again, go for verse. Because then at the end of the day, you get to enjoy it twice. This Penguin edition, by the way, comes with a really good paratext, and it also comes with summaries of each of the books in this, because it's books because it would have been scrolls. You know, it's got a whole section about reoccurring characters, which really helps because sometimes the gods get confusing. But as ever, I have to do a good old little chart for myself because I know all of the gods by their Greek names, not by their Roman names. So the entire time I started reading it, I was like, who the fuck is Juno? It's Hera, of course it's Hera, but I needed to remind myself of the things I've written at the front because I annotate my copies if you're interested. I generally tend to slap a bunch of themes at the beginning, and the themes with this were walls. They freaking love walls because they do freaking love walls. Human emotion, grief, so much about grief in this, so much about funeral pyres and grief, and it is beautiful to read for that. It's also much about homeland and like finding somewhere that you wish to belong and are allowed to belong and searching for a new place to be safe and be established. It is a critique of the Roman war machine as well as then being, you know, both serving as propaganda and as critique, which is very interesting about it. You know, about death, the dead, about catabasis, a journey to the underworld, selfish and pointless wars. And one of the things I've written in here was, is this just historical fan fiction? Discuss 10 marks. No, really, it is such an absolute banger, and if you've ever thought about reading this and you're scared to, please do not be. There are so many resources on the internet to guide you on your reading journey. There is no good reason why not to read this. If you're intimidated by reading this, the only thing I can say is don't be. You fool. You've fallen for the elitist, you know, propaganda. You don't understand this because you don't have to go to a shiny elite university. BS, there are so many good resources on YouTube of how best to approach this. Enjoy some Roman history, learn a little bit about epics, learn a little about the Odyssey and the Iliad because that's obviously very relevant for this, but you are so more than capable of reading this, and it's really just an absolute banger. I shocked myself by how much I love this. I kind of started reading this because I thought I had to and because I really wanted to, but I can't believe I was shocked that I enjoyed it. I can't believe I was shocked by how much I enjoyed it. If they've been printing it for 2,000 years, you would better bloody hope it was good. Okie dokie, we've got 2 left. Let's go with the very sexy, oh, you must have seen these, the Fitz-Carlo editions. Why are they so sexy? This is just a sexy book. There's no two ways about it. Specifically, this is Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga, Tokarczuk. Look, it fits in my hand. It's like a not normal sized book. It's like, she's skinny. I'm so glad I read this. Olga Tokarczuk won the Nobel Prize for Literature. When? 2018? When did you win this? And it's absolutely marvellous. To me, really, this book had no business being as funny as it was. This is set in a remote Polish village in like the 2000s, and it is about a woman who is just she's just like a little bit batty, and it's about a woman who has beef, shall we say, with the local hunting group, and it is very much about her sort of little life ecosystem and just who she is and how she feels about how the world is treated, how the earth is treated, and how she really just seems to love and idolise Czechia, which I think is really funny. It's very much about our respect for the natural world. It's very much about respect for animals and the environment, and it is also like a little bit of a crime sort of thing going on here too. So I don't want to say much more about the plot because I don't want to spoil it for you because it is very, very bloody good. But it's just very tongue-in-cheek, and it's just sometimes a bit silly, but in like, you read something and you're like, ah, wait. It just really has no business being as entertaining and funny as it was, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. The way that Tokarczuk writes about the Polish landscape as well, and the seasons and the earth, I think is just so captivating and so very, you just feel like you're there. And I find that not often with landscapes. Often I feel when somebody describes landscapes, it looks like you're looking at it, but with her you feel much more like you're in it. There's something very visceral again about how she writes, and I think in a similar way akin to Kang, I think she writes the dark stuff in a great way, and it's not gratuitous, and it's not, you know, you're not there for like for enjoying the gore. It's there because it needs to be, and I think she is very, 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 very funny. The humour in this, I don't see it talked about enough. Yes, it's very, very dry, but can you not tell that I'm so English? I love dry humour, it's everything to me. So this was absolutely marvellous, and just what a welcome surprise. I knew it was going to be good. My mum had read it, a couple of my friends had read it. Not all of them liked it, I will say, but this is so incredibly up my street. It blew my socks off, and I really, really loved it. Binge read it as well, that was so fun. Okay, and finally, is this maybe my favourite book of this year? I don't know, you'll have to watch my ranking video because it probably has changed from the 5 times that I've ranked these books because I cannot choose. But I read The Enchanted April by Elizabeth von Arnim. I read this during April. It was actually one of the main things I read in my first reading vlog. So again, that's linked there for you if you would like to see it. This is such a delight. I am a big fan of Nancy Mitford's novels. She's an author who published majority in sort of the 1940s, 1950s, 1960s. She's a British socialite, and Elizabeth von Arnim is like the generation before her. So this is again very much in that Nancy Mitford-esque British high society sort of vein, but these ladies in this novel are not. It's about the fact that these ladies joined together because they would just love to go on a nice little holiday. This is set after the First World War, so you can imagine that after that the idea of like a nice little Italian holiday. Yeah, fair. We all enjoyed COVID. I know that I speak for many of us when I say that I just spent a lot of time thinking about what holidays I could go on when it ends. So it's about 4 ladies who club together to split the cost of renting an Italian castle on the coast during their Enchanted April. It is such a lovely, warm and enveloping novel. It is so much about plants, it is so much about flowers, it is so much about the landscape, the warmth. You can literally smell the goddamn cypress trees through these pages. It is for like the olfactory like elements of it. I was very, very impressed because I was just there. You can hear the sea, you can feel the warmth. It is such a ray of sunshine as a novel. But what's also enjoyable is these women, these characters, and there's 4 of them and they're all very different and from very different sort of walks of life, and these mismatched relationships. They are so incredibly humorous and just fun to read. And again, incredibly dry humour. If you don't like dry humour, this just isn't for you. Elizabeth von Arnim was an aristocrat, and so she very much gets that like British tongue-in-cheek kind of vibe, and she does it so well. She also herself spent a lot of time renting large houses because she had a lot of literary success, so she earned from her writing, and so she just, f***ed off to do whatever she wanted. And like, babe, I get it. I would do exactly the same thing if I were you. But it's one of those like novels set in big houses that I'm very partial to. Orlando is one of my favourite novels, so is Brideshead Revisited. So this is absolutely up there with them, but it's not quite as literary as they are. What I've said along about Nancy Mitford is that I really enjoy her body of work. I've read almost every single novel. There's a couple I've seen that aren't in print that I'm hoping Penguin are putting in print soon. It's these 2. I haven't read these. I don't own these. They're not physically in print. You can get them on Kindle, but they're not physically in print. So would you mind printing these? And can I have them? Thank you. But I've long described Nancy Mitford as like an elevated beach read, an elevated poolside read. You're not going to find treatises on humanity and what it means to be human, but you are going to find silly little jokes. Don't feel cheap, as I think sometimes other, especially more contemporary novels, I think the writing can be cheap, I think the language can be cheap. This, no, and that's why I really enjoyed it. And I really will say, this cover is my favourite cover of all of the editions of this I have seen, and I think it captures so well what this novel is. Oh, Emma, you can't judge a book by your cover. This one you can. If you want this vibe, buy this book, read this book. It's feels warm and enjoyable, set in Italy, lots of it set in London. If you like flowers, if you like wisteria, because I certainly like wisteria, if you read it in April, that's when all the wisteria comes out. What a fun book. What a fun, delightful morsel of a novel. I really can't recommend it enough. I just really bloody enjoyed it. And there we are. So this is 8 novels, not counting Lord of the Rings. This is almost as much as I read in all of 2024. And this is just my stack of my 5-star reads of 2025. It's like in 2025 I just learned how to read. That's just really how it feels. I look at the entire stack that I've done and I'm dyslexic. What? But yes, there we are. Those are my 5-star reads of 2025. I thoroughly enjoyed all of these. As you can tell, if my enthusiasm is enough to win you over, I hope you read every single bloody one of these, because you should, because I said so, because they're really bloody brilliant. Oh, I'm gonna drop them again. And so now I obviously have to know, have you read any of these? Which ones have you read? What did you enjoy? What did you not? What do you not think I've ranked properly or rated properly? Do say, I'm so nosy, I'm so curious. But yes, also I want to know, which ones are you looking forward to reading and which ones are right at the top of your TBR. So as ever, let me know your thoughts. My name is Em. I make booktube videos sometimes. Let me know if there's any book videos you would like for 2026. I have, as you can see, I have plans because I have just become addicted to reading recently. I'm having the best bloody time. But yes, as ever, let me know what your thoughts are. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your time. Like, subscribe, and all that jazz. and I will see you. I'll see you very, very soon. Goodbye. Ooh. Don't drop your books, please. This is too long an ongoing gag.